What is going on, everyone? Well, here it is, the long-awaited update video for my Blurple G10 dyeing experiment. So a lot of you guys have been posting questions and comments, wondering when the final video would be coming, comparing the results of my dye experiment with a, or just an update, or, in general. But I wanted to wait until I had a stock Blurple knife in hand, so I could compare it to in person, side to side. Specifically, I wanted another paramilitary 2, because I've seen that the color of these knives, they vary a little bit between the models, and some of that has to do with the milling in the liners. So given that this is kind of a translucent G10, based on how much light can pass through it, can either make those liners appear lighter or darker, giving you kind of a false sense of color. So anyways, without any further ado, let's see what we have here. So here's one of the knives, and here is the other. So, no, this is not a camera trick here. If you are having trouble telling the difference between these two knives, you are not alone. I am also. So the big surprise or secret here is the dye job was not super successful. That the difference in color was really not very dramatic. And honestly, I did not know this until I had another standard paramilitary 2 come in to compare to. So after all the dyeing, after all the colors, I think I did, kind of a turquoise blue, I did a navy blue, I did a denim blue. I thought that I had made some progress, and honestly, I thought it was darker than it was, but after seeing it next to another knife, unfortunately, I don't really think that is the case, guys. So the knife on the right is actually the one that I dyed, and the one on the left here is the standard undyed scales. So let's compare these side by side here. Now, in person, I can see a very slight difference in these knives. So on this particular knife, the color is just a little bit darker. I don't know if you guys can see this on camera or not, but the light does not pass through it quite as easily. This probably won't show up on camera very well, but take my word for it. If you were to look at these two knives in person, the one that I dyed is slightly darker. It's a little less translucent. There's a slight difference. Not much, though. So, do I recommend that you guys do this? Maybe. And that's a big maybe. It depends on what color you want to dye this to. So given that this G10 is such a dark bluish purple to begin with, I believe the only color that you could dye this with any great results would probably be black. So if you want to dye your handle scales black, I say go for it. But if you're trying to make them a different shade of blue, as I was, I don't think it's going to work out so well for you, given that I tried this multiple times. So, yeah, I know, big kind of letdown. I was hoping for better results as well, but it is what it is, Don't want to lie to you guys. And maybe this will save someone a little bit of trouble, out there from doing this themselves, or, putting a lot of time or effort into trying to do this, then realizing it doesn't really work so well. So we kind of knew this from the beginning, that G10 dyeing works better with lighter colored G10, and it appears that perhaps this color is just a little bit too dark to try to, redo with a different dye. So, it is what it is. It was, a fun little experiment. I may still try to dye my knife again black, and I'm thinking maybe if I put it in black for just a few minutes, it may retain a little bit of the purple color to it. I'm not sure, but given that the color still pretty much is stock, and honestly, unless you had two of these knives side by side, I don't think anyone would notice or suspect that this knife had been, was attempted to be dyed at one point in time. So I may just keep it, this way. If I ever decide to sell or trade the knife, and it more or less looks the way it would from the factory. I don't think anyone would know the difference, but I would, of course, provide full disclosure on that if I went that route. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I may just live with it, or I may try to find, a secondary set of either factory scales or maybe aftermarket scales. The color on this knife, I mean, it doesn't really bother me too much, but I don't know, for such a great knife design, and I really love S110V. I was telling somebody the other day, I said, you know what, I really have kind of an unhealthy relationship with the steel. If anything is an S110V, I'm all over it. It's just an amazing steel in so many different ways. So we're going to have to see what happens there, and, see where things go. Let me try to just give you guys a couple close-up views here. This is stock, and this is again dyed. You may notice a very slight difference, but the amount of time that I spent preparing this and dyeing and stinking up my house and pissing off my wife, I would say it was not worth the effort on this color. But I don't know if I mentioned in a past video, I had very good results dyeing some gray G10 on a Benchmade Valet for one of my customers. That it was kind of a light gray, and I dyed it blue, and it came out beautiful. It came out awesome. So, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but it's kind of nice seeing two of these together. I just noticed a difference here. So this particular knife that was lent to me by my friend Alan, thank you so much for that, by the way, really appreciate it. This Spyderco clip, I don't know if you can see that, the Spyderco design does not have any paint on it or outlining, which I'm not sure if that's from wear or if it came that way. But if you look at mine, it does have a little bit of a highlight in there on the Spyder logo. And the only difference between these two knives is, I believe this is one of the very first Blurple PM2s to be produced. So this had a production date of 6/2015, I think, and mine has a production date of 6/2016. So they've gone through a couple production cycles with that. See if I can show you any other differences here between these knives while I'm looking at them. I have noticed that as these knives guys have progressed in their production, it appears that Spyderco is starting to grind these knives thinner behind the edge. So I don't know if you can really pick up on that too well there, but I think this newer one here on the top is just a little bit thinner behind the edge, which might be a little bit hard to see, but take my word for it there. So there it is, guys. I'm sorry, the kind of anticlimactic finish to this. If I do dye it again, I'll show you guys, and perhaps I'll show you some different, more successful G10 dyeing in the future. But for now, this dark purple G10 seems to be kind of resilient. It's just a tough color to cover up. So I think if you're going to do it, I would go black, and that's probably about the only color you can change this to without too much trouble. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. I'll have some more videos coming here in the near future. Thanks.